Hi, everyone. Hi there. Hey, welcome to Unleash Her. I'm Roberta, and I am your host of the podcast. And I'm so glad that you guys are here. Um, we've had a lot of conversations, and last week I just released my 75th episode on my podcast here, and we're doing something different today, if you can tell. We got a little in person here. But first of all, you guys, do me a favor. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow this podcast. We're on all major platforms: Spotify, Apple, and head on over to YouTube because that's where you'll see all of my podcasts in person as well. That's Roberta Campbell Official. So can't wait to see you over there. And welcome today. And I want to introduce you to my guest, my dear friend here, um, Sabrina. And first of all, yeah, I'm going to hand it over to her. But yeah, this is a story that everybody, I want you guys to hear. So, very motivational. This girl has been through some things that we could never imagine. And so, she is such a testament to faith and God. And this is really good. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Sabrina Blank. Hi, Sabrina.
Hi. Hi, thank you, Roberta, for having me today. It is an honor and a joy to come here and be able to share my story. First, I would just like to say you giving your pain purpose is so important. I think, there you either get better or you get bitter. And I have stuck to that. So um, I would like to talk about today about my brain tumor story. I am a three-time brain surgery survivor. Yeah, that's a lot. So I just want
Yeah.
to, when I say that, and then I keep moving. So sometimes I'm learning to pause in that. Next month will be my 7 year survival anniversary. I was diagnosed in 2018. Um, so I will just kind of talk about first how I was diagnosed. And um, so I was working full time and a soccer mama and doing my thing that all mamas do, right? And it was my daughter's senior year. And we all know if you've raised children and you're in senior year, it gets a little gets a little crazy. You get a little busy trying to make everything perfect. And as a mom and a wife, we always put other people before ourselves, and we never really stopped to take care of ourselves. So I had headaches for quite a while, and I did not feel well, but I ignored them, and I kept saying, "Oh, it's just the stress of working, or it's just the stress of at least 2 years," and just ignored it. So when the symptoms came, they didn't come all at once. They came very gradually. So brain tumor, the type of brain tumor I had, starts to grow very slowly. So you could have like a couple headaches, then you're going to feel good. Then you're like, oh, that was just a couple rough days I had. Like I was just really stressed out. You know how we kind of all make excuses to not get checked out. And so eventually the pain got so bad that I thought I had a pinched nerve in my neck. So I was like, I have got to get this checked out. And it just kind of forced me down where I really couldn't do anything. Um, was feeling terrible at work, was feeling terrible outside of work. And I just, my body had had enough. And it was like, okay, something is really wrong. But I knew something was really wrong long before I ever went. I just ignored it. So I would encourage anybody to, if you, if something isn't right, get checked out. You are your own best advocate. You know your body the best. So I went to the doctor on my lunch break. And when I got to the doctor, I had a low grade fever and a stiff neck. So they thought I had meningitis. And I still, even at that point, was like, I'm on my lunch break. I've got to get back to work. I don't have time for this. I have team dinner tonight. I'm in charge of the dinner for the soccer girls. Like, just going 100 miles an hour of all the things I still needed to do after this doctor is telling me, think you need to go to the hospital to get checked out. So, something deep inside of me, which I would like to call the small, still voice of God now, then I did not know. I did not realize what it was. I went to the hospital and ended up getting a MRI, which revealed a mass on my brain. So when they first came in, unfortunately, we live in a society where, being a drug addict is kind of a common thing now. And so they had asked me several times if I was a drug addict, because at an emergency room, they are only there to put a band aid on something, to stop the bleeding, to save your life, and to get you to the next doctor or wherever facility that you need to go to get the help that you need. And so they thought I had a brain infection from dirty needles. I had to convince the emergency room that I was not a drug addict. Thankfully, I have never had to battle that demon, and I have never experienced with drugs before. So they say sometimes this can happen from water and all these different, like dirty water, rivers. You can get a brain infection. So I left the emergency room thinking I had some kind of infection, and how they treat it is by antibiotics. So I was transported to Jewish hospital. And when I get to Jewish, I was very, if the fear starts setting in now. And I'm like, okay, what is going on? This is really weird. Like, uh, just trying to make sense of it. I had to be transported by myself. And my husband at the time had asked if he wanted me to, he was like, do you want me to come? And I'm like, no, because again, I'm thinking this is no big deal. I'm like, he's got things to do. And but he did eventually come. And so when I got to the hospital, I did arrive alone. And then this little nurse came into my room, and she could tell I was very scared, and I just didn't understand what was going on. And she she asked, which I thought was very brazen and beautiful, if she could pray with me, which a lot of people um, in that position, they're not allowed to exercise those things. They're there to be your nurse or just to take care of you, but for her to have um, rely on her faith and ask that. And I actually cussed her out, but it was out of fear. So I was like, no, I'm scared. Like I just kind of had my moment where I kind of broke down. And then she just stood there like a champ, though. And she just stood there like this little angel in the doorway. And then I started crying. And I said, I love Jesus with all my heart. And I would love for you to pray with me. And I'm so sorry. I need the Lord right now. I just don't understand. My spirit, the spirit of the Lord just really took over in that moment. And we prayed together. And it was just beautiful. And it was a moment for me that I knew that God was here and he was going to be in it and through the whole thing. So I ended up meeting with a top neurosurgeon here in Cincinnati, and they told me what this was. It was not a brain infection. It's what was called an astrocytoma gloma. So I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And I found out on a Monday, and I had surgery the following Monday, brain surgery. So I had 1 week to prepare, and my whole life was flipped upside down. And I was 37 years old at diagnosis.
Did they send you home?
They kept me for a couple days to do some testing, and then I got sent home and then to come back. So thankfully, I never had a seizure. A lot of people who get diagnosed with brain tumors, especially in the emergency room, usually have a seizure first, and that's what sends them to the emergency room because they've never had a seizure before. So thankfully, with me being a soccer mama and carpooling and always having children in my car, thankfully that never happened to me. It just so happened that my body, you know, was just at its breaking point, and my sent a little doctor named Edie Hill to think I had meningitis to send me to the emergency room. So that was by the grace of God in itself that they even that she even picked up on that, on my symptoms, and not dismissed me and sent me home. Because who thinks brain tumor? Like, I remember, I think it was the year, I'd say about a year prior, there was like this funny meme on Facebook, and it said, "Is my headache from dehydration, lack of sleep, or is it a brain tumor?" Like, as a joke. I shared it as a joke. Yeah. And little did I know that a year later I would be diagnosed with an actual brain tumor. So,
Wow. Okay. So I have to say something about that. Now, I'm not like looking into like this. I think that's very interesting, but, and I don't know the meaning. I'm not trying to connect things. I want to say that people joke about things like, my daughter was in an accident and was hit by a car. Okay. Guys, it's how many times have I heard, I felt like I'd just been hit by a car or hit by a bus? And I'm
yeah,
like, we can't say these things.
absolutely.
And I'm not saying that you brought anything into
No,
that, but I
right.
mean, what?
Right.
So I'm sure that you remember
I
that.
do. I do remember that.
Wow.
And it's not funny at all. And that was definitely a lesson for me. Like, you know, y- you have no idea, you know? And the cost of health insurance, here's the other thing too, I want to throw out there is it was a miracle really that they even did the MRI, because the cost of insurance to do that is it's not the first thing that they do.
Yep.
They usually would have given you the runaround, give you send you home with some medicine because of the cost. So, but yeah, so I landed at a Jewish hospital. 3 months prior to my diagnosis, Jewish had opened the Brain Tumor Center. They were now becoming well known to be the hospital to go to when you were diagnosed with a brain tumor, and had also becoming, just for them to have the doctors and the education and the clinical trials and just everything that brain tumor patients needed. Um, so I landed in the hands of one of the best neurosurgeons. His name's Dr. Vincent DiNapoli. Just want to give a shout out to Dr. DiNapoli. Because of Dr. DiNapoli and Jesus, I'm sitting right here. So I went through my first brain surgery, um, and that was a miracle in itself. So when they go into the brain, all they see, so your brain tissue looks exactly the same. The cancer tissue and the brain tissue look exactly the same. It's very hard to differentiate. So what they do is they put a contrast into your body, and it lights up your brain. So the doctors are looking at a screen when they're inside your brain to try to remove anything that's in there. So we all know you can live without your tatas, and you can live without other parts of your body when we get cancer in other parts of our body, but you can't live without your brain. And you know, it becomes a matter of, when you are diagnosed with something like this, becomes a matter of quality of life over quantity. So it just so happened that my brain tumor was located in the front part of my brain, and they were able to safely get everything out with the visible eye. I always share this picture of what God gave me to describe what these brain tumors do. So I say this is your brain, and this is the tumor. And we say it's kind of like an octopus. So it wraps itself like around the brain. And then when the doctor goes in to remove it, he's looking at the screen, which is it's got to be incredibly talented, incredibly talented. So when they move it, they pull it off, right? They're pulling this octopus off, is what I say. So when they pull it off and get everything they can, octopuses still leave little tentacles behind. So that's exactly what this tumor is. So he went in and removed everything he could with the visible eye with what he could see that was lighting up in that little bit of contrast. And I came out, and that was a miracle in itself that I came out with what they thought was no deficits. No, because you don't know until you go through the healing process. And then they scanned me at the hospital after surgery, and there was, I think it was 24% of the tumor still left that he didn't get out. At my age, they decided to go right back in less than 24 hours later. So I went right back into surgery after you have that relief. Like I made it.
Right.
Like all the
Yeah.
prayers, you call in all your people, you pray, you you wake up and you're like, I just made it through brain surgery. And then they come in to tell you, we're really sorry, but we've got to go back in there. I was, boy, I was mad.
Yeah.
I was mad. I was heartbroken. I was frustrated. I did not understand. I'm like, okay, God, you just got me through this, and you're asking me to go through this again? Really? So I remember thinking, all right, well, now I do know what to expect. And I know that God's got this. If he can do it once, he can do it again. And I was thankful because from what I understand is a lot, sometimes they'll send people home and then ask you to come back a week or so later. And because when the neurosurgeon has time to go back in to get it out. So it just so happened it all worked out. Like I couldn't imagine going home trying to heal and then going back through that. So really was a blessing to me that he was able and I was right there and I didn't have to try to start the healing process and then go back through that again. So they went back in and they got everything out. Mine is a grade 2, which when this gets to a grade 4, it's considered full blown GBM, which is brain cancer. So they got everything out they could with the visible eye. I was 37 years old at diagnosis. And I chose to do what's called watch and wait. So I did not do any chemo or radiation at that time. I knew that those treatments would be very, very hard on my body. And if they were scanning me and the doctor got everything out that he could see, even though I understood that those little tentacles were still in there, but nobody knew. The doctors were telling me, this is going to come back. It's going to keep coming back. It's going to come back. I respect and love all my doctors, but they are not the ultimate physician. Jesus is. And my spirit knew that. So at that time, I just decided, let's just heal. Let's just get through this. And then I did. And I was living life and getting scans. Every 3 months, I had to get a scan. I'm now well past over 100 MRIs since diagnosis. I mean, I've lost count. I used to count them, but so every couple months and every time you'd have a clear scan, you're like, all right, this is good. This is great. And um, I also want to throw in there through this time, You learn not to be a victim of this, because this will make you a victim of your circumstances. And you, of course, all these emotions that you go through, like the anger, the sadness, the frustrations. Anybody who's been diagnosed with a cancer, and I know many people can relate, listening to this, all those feelings are the same for anybody who hears the C word. And you're also not only dealing with your emotions, you're dealing with the emotions of your friends and your husband and your kids. And I'm a protector by nature. That's just who I am. I always say I slap you, then pray for you, because um, I could be madder. I could be a very, very mad at somebody who's supposed to be my friend, and they could call me up and be like, we gotta go. We've got to fight. We've got to get to, I need your help. And I'll be out there right beside them just to the very end. And I always say I'm a lot like Peter in the Bible. I can relate to Peter more than anybody. Um, and my personality is definitely a lot like his. So you know, I remember thinking during that time, like, all these emotions, and just the choice not to be a victim. And I'm like, I'm not a victim. I'm not. I made it through this. I got through this. God got me through this. And we're going to rejoice in this. And we're going to press on. And we're not going to lay down and die. And we're going to get our boxing gloves out. And we're going to start punching back. And so I channeled all of that, because you feel all of that emotion, all of that anger. And it's got to go somewhere, right? I always say you can't hold it in, and you're going to, it's got to go somewhere. And you have to have some healthy coping mechanisms. And so I relied heavily on my faith. And when I got mad at, I call them old slewfoot is what I call them. It's the Kentucky word for the enemy, for Satan. And so I decided that all of that anger was going to go towards, um, punching this cancer back in the face. And boy, it gave me the grit that I needed to get through the hard days. The recovery was rough. I had a speech therapist come in. I The tumor was on the right side of my brain, so it affected the left side of my body. So my arm, was, I remember standing at my boss's desk the day I found out, and I was holding my arm like this. And he said, Sabrina, are you all right? I'm like, I think I got a pinched nerve in my neck, which is what sent me to the doctor, because I had not been feeling good and just sick, just really just sick to my stomach, headaches, just a mess. And you know, I I look back like, what a silly girl. Like, now that, I'll be 45 years old this year. If I could tell my 20 and 30-year-old self, listen to your body. Your body, you've got to take care of it. And you know better than anybody when something is not right. So I knew for a long time that just something wasn't right. And I was just too busy taking care of everybody else. So I just want to reiterate that again, that yes, your mamas and your wives and your friends and your daughters and you're all these things to so many people, but without taking care of yourself, you don't get to be that to anybody else. So got through all that, chose to do watch and wait, and was just been living my life, getting the scans, doing good. And in 2022, this this tumor, this jerk, what I like to call him, decided to make another appearance. And at this time, my kids were raised. My daughter was in college, and she's the baby. And I remember what those doctors had said. And so that fear starts to come back and sneak up on you, that, oh, they're right. And they told you, and all of these things. and kind of drowning out the small, still voice of the Lord Jesus Christ. And I remember sitting there thinking, God, why, this isn't your plan. It can't be. You didn't save me and get me through two brain surgeries and go through all of that to bring me to this place to what? To die? No, I'm not believing in that. And I'm not standing on that. So again, all of that anger, all of that frustration, it's like, I am not a victim. I'm not a victim. I'm going to be a victor, and I will look to the Lord for this, and I'll keep my eyes on Jesus. So had another surgery, and the surgery was successful. Thankfully, the surgery wasn't as hard on me the third time around. I don't know how do you say if the third brain surgery wasn't that bad. Same doctor. Mayfield Brain and Spine is a wonderful facility. I'm thankful that we have them literally in our backyard. We have some of the best doctors, and here, right here in Cincinnati, there's some people, they travel hundreds of miles, if not thousands, to get over here. Or they go to other places. They travel out of Cincinnati looking for, the top doctors and stuff. And I'm thankful that it's 20 minutes from my house. So, so yeah, it's a lot. So thank you everybody for continuing to listen to this, because I know it's a lot. Um, so I get through the other surgery. They said it started to grow back. And that's now by this point, you've already gone through all the MRIs, and you're used to the doctor calling and saying, hey, the scan looks really great. We'll see you again in another 3 months. And when they call and say the doctor wants to speak to you, and your heart just kind of sinks. So then that has to be scheduled, because obviously he's a neurosurgeon, and he's not just dealing with patients all day. He's in the operating room. So it has to be scheduled. That whatever he has to say is not good, because he's got to call and talk to you. And he was so gracious, and he's been so amazing. Dr. DiNapoli has dedicated his life to helping brain tumor patients. He also does neck and back surgery and other things like that, but he's on the board at Mayfield. Um, and the beautiful thing about Mayfield is you don't just get one doctor, you get a whole board. So when the tumor came back, they have a meeting every Tuesday, and they take your scans and they put it before the board. And they say, because what they're doing is they're comparing your previous brain scan with your new brain scan. So they're watching for little subtle changes in your brain. So when they thought it was coming back, they are getting the opinion of everybody on that board, which is full of amazing doctors, and um, who said he'll give all their expertise to. So that's the beautiful thing about them. And one thing I love about Dr. DiNapoli is how humble he is to say, hey, let's ask, you know, the other doctors and the other people if they see what I see. So it's not just his opinion that you're getting. So, yes, it was coming back. And that, like I said, that was really hard. Got through the surgery, and then a choice needed to be made. They said, well, it's come back, and now we've got to prevent it from coming back again. So now they want to treat it real aggressively. And when they said chemo and radiation, I'm like, what? I know what those things do to your body. So at that time, there's been nothing new for brain tumors, like well over 50 years. Nothing. Standard treatment, chemo and radiation and surgery. Surgery is the first course of action if you can have surgery, because removing cancer and then trying to clean it up, get anything out is what's been proven to prolong your life. So basically, their objective when you get this diagnosis is to try to prolong your life. They're not trying to really save your life, they're trying to prolong it because to them, it's going to come back and you're going to die. And that's what they tell you over and over. So, this was one of the hardest things to hear. So, when it came back, and Dr. DiNapoli sat in his office and he looked at me and he said, the reality of this diagnosis, according to medical opinion, um, we're hopeful that you have 5 to 10 years after this with treatment. We're hopeful. Whew. How do you process that? How do you process that? Okay. So I took that. And so, you can kind of live in between, well, I'm just going to die anyway, so I might as well just do whatever I want. Like, who cares? And definitely I had those thoughts. Those thoughts were there. Like to be a little more reckless because you're just like, I don't care, whatever. To straight fear, like I'm just gonna live in a bubble and just do everything like a soldier and just do everything perfectly right because what if I can't get to heaven because I'm so reckless and act like a crazy person? And your emotions, they they're fickle. Our emotions are very fickle because you'll go from one high to the next low and they will lie to you. They will lie to you. Just like I always joke, like, I have a wonderful fiance now. His name's Aaron. And, like I love him with my whole heart. But, um, I don't always have the bubbly, cuddly feelings. In the morning, I could be like, oh my gosh, he's driving me bonkers to the next. Like, he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. So that's a little bit of an analogy that I like to use for our emotions that they're very fickle.
Yeah. And don't you think this over here? Don't you think that when I always, because I say I get into my head sometimes,
Mhm.
because when we are just walking in faith and love, everything's good. Right? It's so beautiful. But then something you'll start thinking about maybe something in the past or or the future. I always say depression is like thoughts from the past, right? And anxiety is a future. It's that fear of things in the future. So we get into our head and we're starting to think about, well, that happened to me in the past. And what if that could happen to me in the future? But I think too, that's why it's so important to live in the present moment and enjoy every day, not recklessly
Yeah.
or whatever. But I feel that. I mean, I've never been through what you've been through, you know, but to balance your mind always goes back to faith and
Amen.
love, doesn't it?
Amen. Yes, it does. I think, you have all these emotions and your thoughts are just they're all over the place. Um and I'm like, okay, what is the truth? You go back to what the truth is. What are the facts? What are the facts of what you're doing, your life, and your purpose? What are the facts? And let's stand on the truth that you know to be true in the facts. And the facts are, for me, my faith, the word of God is true. So, what does the word of God say? And the one thing I know when we talk about these thoughts and stuff is there's a word, I'm going to throw this out there and anybody can study this or chew on this. It's called vain imagination. And that's to me how the enemy will get to you a lot of times. Um, when Lucifer was an angel and he got kicked out of heaven, and you know how that started first? Thoughts. Be like God. I want to be like God. I am God. And not only did he trick himself, he took 1/3 of the angels with him. That's how sly he is. These angels are in heaven, and he convinced 1/3 of the angels. So it's a reminder to me, it was a reminder to me at that time like, these thoughts are not from God. This is not from God, Sabrina. What is true and um what is it that you know? And I knew that the Lord had a plan for me and that it wasn't for this to come back and take me out. And I stood on that. And that same feeling from the first time when that anger and that grit came, I was like, here it comes. I'm punch this right back in the face. You're not going to do this to me. This is not going to happen. I'm not going to die from this. This isn't going to take me out. And I'm going to scream this from the rooftops about what you've done for me, Lord. I'm going to do this for you. And I just made that determination that that is exactly what I was going to do, that I was going to be a victor and not a victim of my circumstance. Because we are all a victim of something. I was like, I'm not living in this. Doesn't mean not feeling it. I felt every single bit of it. And I think the truth is, it makes you courageous and stronger when you allow it to come and feel it and then give it back out. So to me, it's in and then back out, in and back out. Because you're going to, I think a lot of times I always heard the term bubble Christian. And I don't know about you, Roberta, but have you ever met people that just seem like, which I'm a happy, joyful person, but it's like no matter what you ask them or say to them, yeah, everything's great, everything's fine. Like nothing is ever, ever wrong. And I'm like, I always look at those people really perplexed. Like, you mean in 30 years you've never had a problem? Like, and I think just being genuine and open with the truth of the facts of with God of what you're going through and what you're feeling. So he can remind you and you can remind yourself um, that our emotions are very fickle, like I said. And um, you just stand on the word of God. And that's exactly what I've done.
And I think too, it's back over here. Okay. So suppressing, holding everything in and acting like everything is okay.
Yeah.
No, you have to feel those
Yes.
emotions. You have to feel that. And it's okay to get pissed.
Yes.
It is okay to cry. It is, you got to get that
Mhm.
out. Now just don't stay there.
Yep.
This is the secret for me
That is the
because
secret.
I in the past I have stayed there for a long time, but now because of my awareness,
Mhm.
I notice it quicker. So you're like, it's okay to get pissed and say
Oh yeah.
no. And actually that was probably a good thing for you because
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh no, I'm fighting this.
Yeah.
No, we're
Yeah.
not doing this." And getting mad, whatever that looks like, angry, um, letting the tears flow, letting that out, and then being ready to say, let's go. This does not have
Exactly.
me, a hold on me.
Amen. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I think, that anger, I want to go back to the anger. God is big enough to handle your anger. He is big enough to handle it. And I think a lot of times we, I I always say people like talk to God like he's super far away up there in the clouds. Like he's just up there. He's right here with us and he cares about us. And I talk to him just like we're having this conversation, and um yeah, that I definitely, God knows I'm feisty. I said, Lord, you're the one who made me feisty. You gave me this sass and this feistiness. What do you want me to do with it? Because it's not for nothing. There's a reason why I'm so fiery.
Right.
And fiery is a good thing to have,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But so back on track here to the story. So I go through 30 rounds of radiation and it was brutal, brutal, friends. It is every day, you're every day for 6 weeks. And anybody who's been through that, and I'm sure there's people listening that have gone through this journey, every day you have to feel it and process it and give it back out. So every single day I was like, all right, I would pick a joke of the day every day to tell my nurses so I could have something to really focus on because I love jokes. I love corny jokes, like stupid dad jokes and mom jokes. And so I'd pick these stupid jokes. And I always got up and I fixed my hair and I put full makeup on. And I was a victor and I was going to walk like one and I was going to
Mm.
talk like one.
Okay. This is huge. Okay. This is huge. You're speaking my language here. So it's yes, it's you can't just be thinking it. You have to show up. Show up as that person. Be that person. Who am I? You could have said, "Why am I going to do my hair or put on makeup? This is ridiculous. I don't feel good." But you chose. That was a choice and a decision. And I talk so much about this, and I really admire you for your decision.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a firm believer in that. And I tell you, my daughter, she was really, she was the one who reminded me, like a memory came back when she was about 10 years old and she played soccer. And I remember we went to get her a brand new pair of cleats. And she was having a really rough time. Like she was kind of in a slump, like not scoring any goals or just struggling with like her self confidence in a way. And so we went to get her brand new cleats. And that confidence level, because she thought these cleats were the fastest cleats on earth. Like they were going to make her run faster and she was going to be able to score more goals. And so it was a reminder for me from years ago that when you get up and you do get dressed and you put your outfit on and you feel confident and you feel good about yourself on the outside, it does help you on the inside. And I remember that with my daughter to teaching her that at a young age. And God brought that back to my remembrance when I had to get up and go to radiation every day. And so I focused on positive things. How can I make the radiation nurses laugh? How can I how can I make them smile? Because every day they see people like me, hundreds of us a week. The weight of that. Like so I just took the focus off myself and put it on them. How could I serve them while I was there? How could I help them? How could I make them laugh? And so I just didn't focus on me. I was just like, well, here we go. And it helped me too because I'm claustrophobic. And when you have brain cancer, they create a mask and it shapes to your face and they bolt you to a table. So you're literally laying down and they bolt it because that beam is so targeted. So it goes straight in, right? Targeted. So you cannot move. So, yeah, but your thoughts, taking your thoughts captive and not letting them run wild is when we let our thoughts run wild. Whoo, get you in all kinds of trouble. So I got through the radiation. At the time, standard treatment was a year of chemotherapy. There was two choices for chemotherapy. There was one where they put a port in and they do, excuse me, they do what's called, chemo through the port and you go in and it's very harsh. It's one of the most aggressive chemo treatments. Or you take this pill for a year. So every 28 days, you blast your body for 5 days with this chemo pill, and it's at a super high dose. The night before I was scheduled to have the port put in, because I thought, this is now, okay, now it's back again. We need to knock this out aggressively. The doctors were recommending this. Everybody was recommending this. You got to do it. You're young. You've got to do it the most aggressive way. Um, and I think it's just a choice. It's a personal choice that you feel like what is best for you at that time when you're faced with such a diagnosis. Like I said, at 37, and my first diagnosis in 2018, I chose to do nothing. I didn't want to deal with the repercussions of the harsh treatment at my young age. And I wanted to finish raising my children without all of those side effects. So this time around in 22 was the night before I was supposed to have the port put in. And I was up and down all night. I could not sleep. And I was praying and then walking through the house and praying. And I really felt like I wasn't supposed to have that port put in. And I couldn't figure out why. So I got up and I got all ready thinking, all right, I'm going to have this port put in. I was supposed to be there. Let's say I don't remember the exact time, but it was about 45 minutes before I was supposed to be there. And I called and canceled the appointment because I just felt that strong about it. And when you're going through that and those many emotions, and we've just talked about your emotions will lie to you, I'm like, okay, is my mind just trying to trick itself? Like, what's going on? So I just needed some time to like really seek the Lord on that and to know that was the best decision for me. And it just in every way, shape, or form just it didn't feel right. Not only, and it just didn't feel right in my spirit. I can't explain that unless you've ever really felt like so adamantly strong that you are not supposed to do this.
And that's God speaking to you. That is your intuition. That is when, that gut feeling that, you got to listen to that.
Yeah.
And to get to just say, wait a minute, hold on a minute. Now, I don't know what happens
Mhm.
after this, but I'm going to say, like, if I was in a position, it was like, I just talked about this last night. Okay. Because when we're made to make a decision and you make a decision out of fear,
That's good.
it is not the best way. You can't, making a decision out of fear. That's at first, it sounds like
Yes.
you did. But then when you sat on it for a little bit and you just went into that calm state, we have to just get calm and say, hold on, why do I have this just feeling of this isn't
Yeah.
right? So you just give it a minute. It's okay. Because I've been, forced with these big decisions in life, not as big as this,
Yeah.
but you listened and you just didn't, you weren't, listening to everyone else, but just give me a moment and let me get to that place of where I hear clarity. And it always comes from, that's to me, your intuition is God speaking to you.
Amen. Yes, I thank you for pointing that out, Roberta. I think that's so true. You said making the decision out of fear, and you're so right about that. That's where that uncertainty and that, yeah, I was just like, I can't do this. Like something isn't isn't feel right. So I canceled that appointment. And if I would have chosen that route, I would have been so sick. I wouldn't have been able to live my life. And I think, for me, that was so important. I wanted to live my life on my terms and I wanted to do everything I possibly could to make an impact with this diagnosis. And of course, spend time with my family. And I knew that if I did this chemo that they wanted me to do, I would have been bedridden pretty much. I just would have been so sick. And so I chose to do the other chemo and I did it for a year. And it was a rough couple months. But I ended up, I always say I'm the 1% of everything, which given I have a brain tumor diagnosis is, I always say I'm the 1% of the really good or the really bad because there's 1% chance you could have a brain tumor and 1% chance you could break out in hives from mums. Well, guess who did that last night? So, um, I, I look back on that and I'm so thankful I chose that the Lord spoke to me and I didn't make that decision out of fear because I had a beautiful year. Even still, I went to Florida. My friends, I had never been on an airplane. And for the first time, I got to fly on an airplane and I got to go to Florida and just spend quality time with my friends. And um, help my daughter in college. She was playing college soccer at the time, and I got to enjoy that. And there's so many things I look back like I would have had to give up if that decision would have been made out of fear. And so thankful for that time. So I get through The radiation, I get through the year. It was a very long year with the chemo, but I ended up going back to work and just living my life like it was no big thing. Um, Took me a couple months of just, because they have these things they tell you, like, maybe eat a little something before you take the medicine or do this a certain way. Well, unfortunately for me, none of what they said worked. So I'd have to go in before I'd start the 5-day round and just get super hydrated with fluids. It was like it gave my body the best chance to accept the medication. Like that chemo dried my fingernails out, it dried my skin. It just sucked every bit of like vitamins and moisture like right out of my body. So I had to learn what to do to prep my body for the battle. So that's another part too. I want to really push out here is how important it is to take care of your physical body, not just your spiritual body, but juicing really helped. Cutting out the sugars, cutting out the junk, and staying active during that time. If I just would have been sitting around eating chips and watching television, I my body would not have responded. And there was times I didn't feel like it. I wanted to like, and I rested when I needed to, but it was important. I think that I just kept moving, perpetual motion. Let's just keep moving. If it's going down to the Walmart and taking 2 laps around and looking at the new decor that's out, or, a trip around the supermarket or whatever that is. And everybody has experienced, I'm sure, when you don't feel good and you're kind of having like a rough day, just you don't feel good, you're tired. Maybe it's a Saturday morning and you're still in your pajamas and it's noon, right? But once you get dressed and get out, you're like, oh, I feel better. I feel re-energized because we go back to the new soccer cleats about that and taking care of yourself. When you put on, fix your makeup and put your hair on and put the outfit that makes you feel good about yourself and you get out, you'll always feel more revitalized and better than just, hmm, you know, and I'm a firm believer in that, they say fake it till you make it. And I don't know if I believe in faking it till you make it. I think you just make it to make it. you know? You make it to make it. You get up it, you make it, you put it, make it happen to make it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not pretending.
No, it's not a pretend. Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, I sat around for a couple hours, but now I'm not. Now I'm up and I'm moving and I feel good. Yeah, because I struggle with that. If anything, like I always, I have like, I don't, what you see is what you get with me. Like, there's no pretending. And I'm like, even the person at the grocery store, I'm like, when someone says, how are you? And I'm like, oh gosh, today was terrible. Rough day. Like, I think just being genuine in yourself is so important. So make it till you make it.
Yes, okay. I really like that. And I like that. And you're just like, oh, yeah, you're not saying it in like because you could have reacted. We can react in situations instead of instead of just saying, it's just a rough day.
Yeah.
It's okay to say that.
Yes.
It's temporary. But instead, what a lot of times, if people are having a bad day, they take it out on someone else.
That's true.
And we have to be careful not to do that.
That is so true. It's important to be kind. You have
Yes.
no idea what
Yeah.
somebody's going through. So looking at me, told Roberta, actually, when I first saw her this morning, I said, it's a good thing we don't look like what we've been through. Because if you took everything that I've been through and it's on the outside, boy, it's a lot. Yeah. If we could see people's hearts first, yeah, we sure would have a different perspective, wouldn't we? We surely wouldn't treat folks some of the way that we treat them. And that's important. We have no idea what somebody's going through. And I'm guilty of it too. I'm not always rainbows and butterflies, and sometimes I can be rough too, and I have to remind myself, hey, We don't know. Maybe they have some hidden scars like mine. The Lord
Mm.
blessed me with a lot of hair. So mine hide. So when you look at me, you don't think, gosh, when as soon as I tell people I'm a brain tumor survivor, they tend to keep looking, like looking for the deficit or looking for the
Right here. This my
yes,
title for this book. She looks fine.
exactly, like Paige.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, traumatic brain injury, uh, brain
Yeah.
cancer,
Yes.
brain tumor.
Yes.
Like we we're running into people every single day that have something. Okay, we all have something we're going through. So I've just learned to be a little bit more understanding, and but then just, remembering not to attack people. I mean, because we've all had that. I've done it. I've had people do it to me. And now I have the understanding, and I understand that they're having a bad day. They don't feel well. Something is going on in their lives.
Yes.
It's not okay, to I used to just kind of take everything, and now I'm like, I might be like, how's your day going, or something, maybe kind of help them out a little bit without taking on the whole full energy of everything of an empath. But yeah, I think that was really good. So now we're into 2023, right? After your 1 year of, yeah, so what happens then?
So I go back to work and I'm just living life, having the scans, and they're like, it's doing great. The medication, the radiation, and the chemo are working. So there was a very, very teeny tiny amount of the tumor left that they couldn't get. It's in a very deep part of my brain, and it's just hanging out in there, you know?
Mhm.
And there's just nothing you can do because it becomes quality of life over
Mhm.
quantity. And in order for them to go get it, it could cause me a deficit somewhere. Like, um, you know, it's at the forefront of my brain. So, uh, obviously, our brain, we can't even blink without our brains, you know? So I've been fine. I've just been living life, and I have chosen to use what I've been through for a bigger purpose than myself. And I'm part of a brain tumor support group at Jewish. I'm also part of the Ray of Hope Foundation. A beautiful lady named Tina Ween lost her husband to GBM a few years ago. And born out of that is what's called the Ray of Hope Foundation. And so now they give back to the community. So every person that comes through Jewish hospital that's diagnosed with a brain tumor now gets a beautiful tote full of just things that they're going to need. Like I had no idea like what you're going to need after brain surgery. Like what are you going to
Yeah.
need?
Right.
What do you how long is this what do you mean? Like so it was beautiful. It's beautiful now to see that not only for this tote to know that um they're going to have things that they're going to need during their stay in recovery, but they have a community behind them now. They're not alone, because when I got diagnosed in 2018 there was nothing like this. So Ray had passed away in 2019, and then it took some time for the foundation to get off the ground, so there wasn't anything like this. I am one of the original members of the brain tumor support group at Jewish Hospital. And it brings a lot of hope and a lot of encouragement. And there's people from all walks of life and all walks of faith that come in, and you're just among people who understand. It's once a month. Um, and we just get together and we share a meal together, and uh, we just talk openly about what's going on with this diagnosis and what it can bring, from people who've lost children, from people who've lost spouses, who people who are actively still going through it, just all of the emotions and all of the trials and tribulations a diagnosis can bring. You have support, in that, answer medical questions like, what did your doctor tell you versus what my doctor told me? And, there was nothing like that. The only thing I had was God and Google, was what I said. That was it. And everybody knows if you Google something, you're dying tomorrow. So I
Yeah.
get through that and just live my life and start really utilizing this and giving back and think, okay, well, we have a lot to share, have a lot to tell. 3 brain surgeries later, like, wow. Okay, God, what are you going to do with this now? And so I just have kind of let the Lord lead this. And I have spoken, I've shared it with my church, and um, I speak, all the time at the support group, and have been able to give this pain some purpose and help other people. It's not for nothing. So you come to where we are today, and I get another really hard phone call. I've so through this whole entire time, I have scans every couple months, because they're watching this. They're keeping an eye on what's going on inside my brain. And unfortunately, I got yet another phone call that this tumor has started to creep back up. And you're like, okay, so now you've already done this a couple times, and you're kind of a veteran at this point. And now I am more educated. Because not only have I only not had myself to rely on now because of the Ray of Hope Foundation and the brain tumor support group at Jewish, I'm now connected with a lot of other people who have been walking this or had walked it. And I've learned from them, and have grown in my faith as well. Um, so I feel like now I'm like, I have accepted it a long time ago, what it is, what it what it could do, who I look to when things like this happen. Because I know every single scan, I could get the potential of the phone call to say, Sabrina is back. So I've already accepted that. And I've accepted the fact that I have this diagnosis, but it does not have me. And I made that decision a couple brain surgeries ago. Yep, we have this, just like we have aches and pains or common things too, like, things that other people have, like diabetes, something I don't thankfully have to struggle with, or, um, you know, it's a choice. It really is, to say, this isn't gonna, this isn't gonna stop me from doing what I need to do. I'm going to keep going. And I am not going to let that, I'll say it again, that old slew foot determine my footsteps or tell me what I'm going to do with this. So I'm like, okay, so the beautiful thing is new medications are coming out. So last year, the FDA just approved a brand new medication for my type of tumor, which is in itself a miracle. It's called voracibin something something. That's definitely cannot pronounce it. I call it Vora. It's Vora. And if you just type in Vora in Google and then put in brain tumors with it, you'll be able to find all kinds of stuff on this medication. It was just FDA approved last August because it did so well in clinical trials that the FDA rushed to approve it. So it's a single pill that you take every day, and it's been known to, what it does is suppresses the cells in my brain, which are called them astrolites. I call them stars.
Okay. Yeah.
I got stars in my head. Okay. So because my own brain creates these cancer cells. So you can have cancer like in your breast, and it can move to your brain. My own brain is creating this tumor. It's a primary brain tumor. So this medication is created to suppress those genes and to stop this tumor from coming back ever again. 10 years, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. Scientists and doctors are limited to their own knowledge. That's why I don't rely, I respect them, but I don't rely fully on them.
Thank
You don't accept their word as truth. You hear it, you respect it. When they looked at me, Roberta, and he said to me, "Yeah, 5 to 10 years." And they have to tell you that. You want them to be real. I don't want them to sugarcoat things, right? But I remember looking back at him and saying, well, you can say whatever you want to, but you don't have the final say. So you have to make a decision. Who are you going to believe? Whose truth are you going to believe? Because if you accept everything you hear in your life as truth, you're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. So the truth to me is God has a plan and a purpose. And I will be healed, Roberta. I will be healed. And I speak that over myself. And I hold on to that. And I believe in that with my whole heart. And I do believe that's why I have done so well. It's by the grace and mercy and love of Jesus Christ. It is nothing more than that. And it's keeping my eyes on him and saying, okay, I have this, it doesn't have me. So I choose to live every single day like that. And sometimes like I was saying about being real and genuine, I do have rough days. It's not like I get up and I'm like, oh, okay, let's go. Some days it's a hard fought hallelujah.
Yeah.
Some days it's like, all right, I need to take a few minutes and sit down and get my Bible out and pray. Sometimes I think we get up and we rush into the day. And then I always say, the Lord always he speaks to me in pictures. So I always say I'm like a racehorse and I'm at the race and I'm ready to go. And we're all behind the gate. And I'm the horse and I'm behind the gate. And I'm like, I'm ready, Jesus. I'm ready. And I take off because I am a doer. I'm like, let's go. So I get all the way down around the racetrack. And then I get a little boo-boo and I get a little bump. And then I'm like, well, God, where are you, God? Where are you? Why aren't you here? Like I get aggravated with God. And then he goes, hey, Sabrina, I'm back here at the gate where you left me. And I'm like, ooh. Yeah. So for sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, that's so good because I was just thinking of that too. Because, I heard this saying or whatever. It's like, why sometimes God, where are you? We're looking for God at times that, yeah, we left him behind. We started just like taking things for granted or whatever that may be. And then he's like, why are you calling for me when things are so low? I'm always here. You know that. When things are going fine, you're all good and this and that, right? And then when things go bad, you're like, calling my name. So it's so true. And
Yes.
um how I love everything that you've shared with us. And you guys, I want you to share this with somebody who needs to hear this. But is there and I think we've covered so much, but is there any last um anything you want to say to finish this off here for our listeners?
Yeah, I do. I just want to say, remember, Jesus came to set us free and not to wrap us in bondage with the burdens of this world. He says his burden is light and his yoke is easy. And I just ask and pray for everybody listening to this right now that you would keep your eyes up. And if you're struggling with something, whether it be a brain tumor or just depression or just maybe you're going through a rough time with your kids or your marriage or whatever it is in life right now that's kind of getting at you, I just pray that um, that you would look up and you would take that time before you go out of the gate, so to speak, and seek the Lord and pray and listen for that still small voice, and don't let fear speak. Um, and that's what I would encourage you to do. And I'll thank you everybody for listening. And I appreciate this time. And it's like I said, it's an honor. Every single time I share my story, I heal a little bit more too. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that, I think too, what helps you is by sharing your story and by continuing to lift others up, you are lifting yourself up. And so whenever we help others heal and help them, we're helping ourselves too. And so that's why this is also important. So thank you, Sabrina, for sharing your story. And so, yeah, guys, thank you so much for being here today and listening. And I know you feel inspired and live every day, live in the present moment,
Yes.
and not to make decisions out of fear, and go to that place of where you're balanced and in spirit when you do make your decisions. And really, if we live our lives that way, what a beautiful world it will
Yes.
be. So, amen, right?
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys. Until next time. See you soon.
Back.
Yeah.